Welcome to this Overcoming Procrastination webinar slash crash course. If you're watching, it's likely because you or someone you know is dealing with procrastination and you're looking for solutions. While time management is certainly a key to overcoming procrastination, it may not be the only cause. So we encourage you to have patience with yourself as your progress may begin slowly at first as you attempt to develop a flow, understand your own work style, and understand your energy levels. With this in mind, we do believe that the suggestions posed in this webinar will start you on the right track towards moving away from procrastination and towards building balanced study habits. So in this webinar, we're going to discuss the reasons or the motivators behind procrastination, as well as providing some tips on how to reduce or overcome procrastination altogether. But first, let's begin with why we procrastinate. Some motivators for procrastination include avoiding something perceived as unpleasant or painful. This could be completing an assignment for a class that you don't particularly enjoy, or submitting an assignment that's very important but is also very overwhelming. And also perfectionism, so having unrealistic goals that make it difficult to get started, what some often refer to as analysis paralysis. And perfectionism often can come with what I have seen or noticed to be the self-imposed high stakes. And this often happens with students who may not have developed their own definition of success yet, and may also have a lot of their personal confidence and identity rooted in their academic performance. So I encourage each of you to consider the difference between high standards, which can be good, and perfectionism, which can undermine your goals. I also encourage you to consider the emotional stakes that you've placed on your academic performance, and if it's possible, to reimagine or rethink them so that they don't become sources of anxiety or stress. A final reason behind motivation, but certainly not limited to these three, is a general mismanagement of time where distractions are frequent and achieving focus is a challenge. I do want to add a note on some of the deeper causes of procrastination. Sometimes they go beyond just not wanting to do an assignment. Many people may find themselves dealing with deeper emotions that are creating blocks in their focus. If you feel that some of the motivators behind your procrastination require deeper changes than adjusting time management or study strategies, it is advisable that you avail of mental health support that's open to all students on campus, or that you seek out the support of a trusted advisor, mentor, community or religious leader, or a friend. With that said, you do not need to undergo this long journey of self-discovery to ease procrastination. We have time management and reward system strategies in the present that you can use to keep up with your work while you address any other more complex challenges that you might be facing. So now that we've covered the motivators, let's explore some ways to beat procrastination. The two tools we tend to rely on when trying to overcome procrastination are motivation and time management. For motivation, the primary tool that we use to stay motivated through the urge to procrastinate is using a reward system. Perhaps you keep a point system that allows you to earn a new gift, activity, or privilege. Also, a very effective incentive for students I've noticed is earned downtime. So this is where you earn it by placing it after you've completed the day's work. Please note that earned downtime rarely, if ever, produces the same feelings of guilt or shame that procrastination does, simply because you've successfully avoided it and you've completed your work, thereby boosting your confidence, your mood, and your productivity. That's a lot of wins. Next up under motivators, we have inner dialogue. And this can take on a multitude of techniques and angles. However, one method that I suggest is integrating an inner ally to counteract your inner critic, or your inner nag, as I call them. And this inner ally uses encouraging words that soothe any unpleasant or negative emotions or thoughts around your work or study obligations, and it eases any pressure that negative self-talk may create. Lastly, we have cultivating genuine interest or investment in the subject. And this may look like approaching the material from a different angle, like relating it to your personal life or your observations. An example might be looking for real world applications in your own life. So if you're in Econ 1, how supply and demand affects your consumption practices, right? So that's just a really basic example. So we've covered how to stay motivated. Now we're going to explore specific task and time management techniques that can help you feel more on top of your responsibilities. First, we have task breakdown. And this is kind of like separating assignments into smaller tasks, more digestible tasks. This is particularly helpful for bigger, multifaceted projects, but works for any assignment, small or big. A couple of examples are on the screen. You can divide an essay assignment into an outline, maybe fill in that outline with more details. Maybe you get some feedback from your GSI, then draft, and then create your final draft, et cetera, you get the point. And then for more quantitative subjects like math, you can manage a problem set by dividing the number of problems up by however long you have until you have to turn it in. And this prevents you from pushing it off for so long and then being faced with this long, maybe even daunting problem set that's due the next day. And it has all these layers, right? So you're setting yourself up for success by breaking things down into bite-sized tasks. Next up, we have front loading. By front loading, I mean placing all mentally and intellectually taxing or creative work before any other obligations where possible, which is why in the study strategies crash course, we suggest following a morning or afternoon study routine. And you can see on the screen here, there's a sample schedule. This person wakes up relatively early and they set a nice hefty study block in the middle of the day that allows them to get it out of the way even before their lecture that day and then spend the rest of the day resting. Next up, we have setting your own interim deadlines. So part of breaking down tasks is setting smaller milestones that give you an indication of how smoothly your work is developing and removes the sense of urgency that procrastination creates. This also has the added bonus of being a motivational tool to follow a study schedule. And so you can see on the screen here, we've got a fake essay that's due, and we've set out those task breakdowns that we talked about earlier, got an outline, et cetera, and we've also made them more real by establishing some dates by which we have time to complete those particular steps. And it's really motivating to keep you on track to submitting not only submitting your assignment on time, but making sure that you're monitoring the quality of your work as well, while keeping time in mind. Next up, you want to make sure that you have some sort of accountability loop, or that you're seeking feedback from knowledgeable folks like the instructional team in your class. And this technique is great for ensuring that you're developing an accurate understanding of the material and that you're correctly completing assignments while following your study schedule. So the feedback and accountability appointments actually are dual. They allow you to make sure you're getting feedback and that you're on the right track content-wise, but it also motivates you to follow your schedule because you want to get as best feedback as you can. Lastly, we have creating work or study blocks. Now, the more specific you make your blocks, the more effective this method can be. For example, if you've broken down your tasks and front-loaded your scheduled block, you can then integrate your own deadlines as well as schedule feedback and accountability meetings in advance. And these are all adding these extra layers of motivation because you have these deadlines to meet, these people to meet who are going to give you feedback, and it keeps you on task. So in this part of the time management tips, all of them come together to produce this individualized study plan that's built around your specific needs, your preferences, and your schedule. So if you look at the sample on the screen, this student has what some might consider a pretty standard schedule, a couple lectures, and they've managed to squeeze in some study blocks, one between their lectures and then one after, but allowing themselves to stop at a decent hour because this particular fictional student did not want to work too late into the evening. So that is it for this webinar. We hope that we were able to highlight how the methods in this video can turn time management into one of your greatest assets. We also wish you well as you continue to outsmart your procrastination while feeling more confident and productive. If you're feeling up to it, we encourage you to choose one achievable adjustment to try this week and implement it. Lastly, to get a more expansive set of tips for strategizing your studies, consider watching this in tandem with the Study Strategies Crash Course webinar. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great semester.